Hello and welcome to the Be Awesome at Facility Management podcast. This is episode 26. I am amped up. I don't know that I'm going to be able to contain myself and stay in my seat for this one. This is a doozy. I am actually on site in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Albuquerque Public Schools. This is Joshua Peach. I got my co-host in the little camera corner. He's not in timeout. I just don't know how to figure out some of this technology. We've got an owl camera. So for those of you that are on the technology side of things in schools, this is like such a cool device. It's a mobile microphone, speaker, and 360-degree camera. So you can see that John Dufay, my guest, Director of Operations here in Albuquerque Public Schools, is joining me across the table, but he looks like he's right next to me.
Hello.
And COO, right? Mm-hmm. COO, Dr. Gabrielle Blakey is here as well, and she's not going to talk unless we put her on the spot. But she wants to check in with us. I've been here for the last 24 hours, and this district, the work that they're doing, 148 schools. Before I'm going to set the table, and I'm going to welcome Paul, take him out of the timeout corner. But what I learned is they have 148 school buildings covering over 1,200 square miles, 77,000 students. And all of their operations are in-house, no outsourced service providers, and they just do a lights out phenomenal job. And we're going to dig right into all the awesome that they're doing, because I came here to give them a day's worth of professional development. And I feel like I got a lifetime of inspiration and motivation in what's going on in public schools today. So, Paul, the co-host with the most in the small square this week. I'm sorry you're at the small square, but welcome. Looks like the New Hampshire beach house, but not positive. I don't think that's a background I've seen yet.
Yeah, I like to move things around even in the same house. But yes, we're in the New Hampshire beach house. I got my beach wear on. We came from down at the surfing area of the beach with the grandkids earlier, and here we are in Hampton Beach, New Hampshire, from the beach plaza here. So
I was at Logan at 3 a.m. yesterday morning. It was 81 already. What am I coming home to? Am I coming home to hot as Hades still?
I got to tell you, yesterday I left Watertown, Mass, not far from where Josh is, inland, and it was 94 degrees. When I got here at the beach on the coast, it was 75 and breezy. Absolutely gorgeous. So unless you live on the coast, you're coming home to 95 and soup.
Yeah. So I'm coming home to the soup. Well, welcome me home. Well, let's get right into this. And I just don't even know where to start. So I'm going to ask, John, share a little bit your background. You and I go back 20 years. You've been in the industry for quite some time. Where did John Dufay come from, and how did he get here?
Well, I went to the University of New Mexico and University of UTEP in El Paso, graduated from UNM, and then had my own practice, architecture practice and stuff. And I was working up at Los Alamos Labs, the national laboratory, right up the road from Albuquerque, about 120 miles away. And most of you probably have heard of Los Alamos National Labs, where the first atomic bomb was developed and stuff. And they still do it's the national laboratory for the USA. And I was a staff architect there, and then came to work to APS when they called me and asked me if I wanted to come over and open up an environmental division. And then I've been here ever since. I'm the executive director of operations. I've been here 33 years. I've been in the construction industry since college, and it's been a fun ride. It's been fantastic, and the ride continues. I'm not looking to leave. This is fun. This is one of the few positions in the district, of any school district, I feel, that you can make a difference in a kid's life every single day. Any kid, any classroom, any school, we can make a difference that day. And of course, that's easy to say when you're doing the type of work we're doing, but it's fantastic. It's a little tougher for teachers to be able to say that, because it takes time, but we can, we can change something in a day if we have to. but this is fun, and it's a great place. Have a great boss. Have the leadership is phenomenal from her office, and the staff. All of our staff has been here a while, and that creates a lot of challenges, as you know, with the aging workforce and stuff. But right now, it's still pretty good.
And you've been here for 33 years, and
33 years.
When we got in the pickup truck that he picked me up at the airport. As far as hospitality and rolling out the red carpet, I haven't had to worry about anything from the time I got off the plane, other than the fact that I walked past you inadvertently, not paying attention. 1.3 million people here, and everybody seems to know you, including the information guy at the Albuquerque Public Schools, Albuquerque Airport, right out of the gate. When we got in the truck, I asked you, because I have listened to, and Paul and I talk about this in every episode, about people that are leaving unexpectedly. People are retiring early from the industry because they're burnt out, they're unhappy, there are all these things. You and I have seen each other for the first time in a couple of years. My first question, and you were like, yeah, no, I'm not, that thought's not even in my mind. I am unbelievably happy. And I got to tell you, I sipped the Kool-Aid. It didn't take long, but you literally are one of the happiest and proudest people in the industry I've ever come into contact with.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. You have to introduce yourself. You're here, and tell us a little bit. I'm sorry. I know you didn't want to.
You're not going to get out that easy.
Yeah, we got through 3 minutes. I'm sorry. Because we'll get into it, but she's amazing, and her story of how she got here is unconventional, but so glad that she chose the path that she's on, because Dr. Blakey is doing, her team is just phenomenal in what they're doing. So I hope you don't mind. I'll put you on the spot. I can try to block the camera, but I can't. You're on.
I'm Gabriella Blakey. I'm the Chief Operations Officer, and I work with John and his departments. I oversee transportation, food services, capital construction, school police, athletics, and I've been with the district about 20 years, a little more than 20 years. I actually started as a teacher in Washington State, and I'm from New Mexico, and found my way back from Washington to teach school here at I had a sense to give back to my community. So I came back to teach at the high school I graduated from, and kind of found myself moving into administration to try to make a bigger difference in system change. So I became a principal. I started a charter school. I worked in district leadership. I was on the academic side. I thought I had a path that just wasn't really panning out for me on the academic side. So I thought I needed something different. And I really like to look at systems. And I've always been kind of a systems thinker. And I like problem solving. So I thought, let me try the operations side of the house, and moved over a couple years ago. And because I have an academic background, I've always kind of approached my work as looking for the students in Maslow's hierarchy, as making sure that the kids have the first level of safety and security in the classroom in their schools before they can even think about learning. So I like to approach that as what we can do for the kids every day in every classroom to make sure that they're in an environment that is providing them the opportunity to learn in a safe and healthy environment. So that's what brings me here.
Well, I think one thing I wanted to say is that her vision is very inspiring to us and my staff and all the other directors around. She has a vision of what it should be. You know, we sometimes don't look at the educational side because we're a facility, we're about the operations, whether it's food, but everything ties in that we do, whether it's safety, whether it's the classroom, whether it's food, anything like that, all ties back into the classroom and the kids and what we're here to do. We're an education business. we're a large business, but we're all into education. It's the support service, and it takes, you have to be able to do things differently. We talked today in a lot of your presentation about the different generations and stuff, and the kids we have today are different than the kids that we had long ago.
Mhm.
And I think that's really important to understand. They have different needs, and so we have to have that vision to be able to change, to be able to support them and give them what they need in the classroom, whether it's a different design of a classroom, to give a design, whether it's a different type of technology, whatever it may be. We have to be able to adjust to that and be able to easily maneuver one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, it's often overlooked as far as the delivering positive outcomes, right? And it starts with when the child gets on the bus, and it ends when they get off of it. And the number of moving pieces outside of the classroom are enormous. Paul, I sent you a bunch of pictures. I sent you a whole bunch of articles. I've got an unfair advantage because I've been here. So I'm sure you have questions for all the things that I sent, or thoughts, or.
Well, first of all, to Dr. Blakey's title and responsibilities, I got to tell you, I did custodial, maintenance, and transportation, period. And to hear that you got athletics and security and transportation and food service, it's like I don't know how you do it.
Paul, when we talk security, it's an 84 police officer police department for the district. It's 18,000 security cameras and a 24-hour, 24/7 dispatch center that would rival just about anyone in the country. Amazing. You're spot on. Yeah.
And part, never mind the pictures that you showed me of the storerooms of food that I told you. Reading the articles and talking about the public dashboard, I think that was brilliant. Whoever put that together, it was absolutely brilliant. And
well, that was Dr. Blakey's
well, it's a combination.
idea. We helped, but it was her idea. Again, her vision.
Yeah.
But to say that you guys were in a position that you hadn't been in before, where the public was, all of a sudden the public was asking you were there, and I apologize for the screaming grandchildren in the background.
No, that's what it's all about, man.
But and to know that your facilities were already up to standards, and that no one trusted or believed that because they thought it was something new. And for us, we all know, all of us that are in the trenches there, we know that that's what we do, and we do it. And Josh has heard me say this many times. We're like the Wizard of Oz. We're behind the curtain. They say, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. That's us. We're behind the curtain and moving all the levers and making it happen. And people don't know that we're there. We change the filters. We clean. We do the majority of our work at night or in the summer when the buildings are empty. And most of the staff and the residents themselves don't know how it's done. It's magic. How many times have we had the teachers come back from summer vacation and say, wow, this place looks great. How was your vacation? Like, well, I didn't go to Cape Cod for 12 weeks. So yeah, my vacation was mostly spent here. I did get a week or two, like I should, but so to read those things, it's amazing how consistent it is across the country.
So I'll put that video. You're talking about the video. You're referencing the video from K-12 Facilities Forum that was titled "Building Trust in the Public Dashboard." Tell a little bit about that. Why you decided to do it, and then what it is, because it is pretty darn powerful.
So I think that the idea of it really came from a couple of things, and one is my background again is on the academic side, and so I feel like I have a obligation to operations to translate the good work they're doing to the mindset that a lot of people don't have on the academic side. So I do feel like I was given the opportunity to lead in this position during a time where there was a lot of disconnect between and trust, basically, because we're talking about coming back to school after the height of the pandemic. And I saw all of the work they were doing, and I would ask John, like, oh, do we have this? Do we have? I didn't know what a MERV 13 filter was. I barely knew what an HVAC system was. I learned a lot in a short amount of time, but at the time, I just was like, do we have this? Yes, we have all of that. We've been doing it. We changed the filters. We have preventative maintenance. We do all of this. And I was like, people need to know. They don't know that. Like, you guys are operating like so efficiently that people don't know what's going on.
Yeah, if you don't have to fix something,
right.
it never broke,
right.
and they
exactly.
didn't see it.
So if we're not changing our HVAC systems because we don't need to, nobody knows that we have things that are already at a standard, or that the air quality is meeting what it needs to be because of all the preventative work. You need to brag about yourselves, and we need to show the community and the teachers and the families what's going on. So after a lot of talks with the team, we kind of came up with and also to credit work that was done in the Council of Great City Schools. We work with a lot, John specifically, and Chicago and New York had done similar things, like putting information out. New York kind of unfortunately sets the stage for us. Kind of they put their feet in the water first, and then we watch to see if we're going to go in or not. And especially during the height of the pandemic, New York, as everybody knows, was kind of the leader in that. Yeah. So we kind of just put it together, like, as a parent, this is what I want to know about my child's classroom. So as John's team started putting it together, they put together this dashboard that you can drill down to. My child is in this classroom at this school, and I want to know what is in their classroom. So we just put it out there, and you can see exactly what is in that, what HVAC system is, because all of a sudden everybody cared, right? About what HVAC system was in there. We have what we started to even add on to it. Anything the public needs to know. Do the windows operate? Do we have a fan in the class, a portable fan in the classroom? We're using ESSER dollars to upgrade a lot of our HVAC systems. We have that on the public dashboard. We had the fire department come in to give clearance that schools were ready to open, and we put all of those forms on and it was just, we need to be transparent because parents care about, what classroom their kids were on. Teachers were scared about what they were going back into. It was kind of, and meanwhile, our maintenance and operations department had a great system and had cared about the health of the classroom for years. But we just needed to show it to people. And so I think being transparent, people want to know.
And you're ahead of the curve, because parents care, but they don't show how much they care until something happens, right? And that's amazing.
I think on part of that, what was it, when we had worked with a lot of the different school districts in our committee for the Council of Great City Schools, our facility side. And we've been talking, and during the whole pandemic, we were meeting, networking once a week and talking about what to do. And like Gabriella said about New York and Chicago, they had decided to let some information out. Chicago was just showing information. And then New York decided, John Shea from New York City side, they put together something like a dashboard, but it was like a little bit of information, like, here's what we're doing, whatever. And it was like, okay, but with Gabriella, we talked about it, and it was like, well, it's like a book. You open up the book and you see the table of contents, and that's like that limited information, but it's some information. I said, no, let's get into all the different things. Let's get deeper. Let's dive in. Let's get granular, get into the weeds. And, it's like, do you have this? Do you have this in the classroom? And that meant not just putting it up there. I mean, we had to build the dashboard to have all that information, but we had to have the information. So that meant we had to be going out to the classrooms and looking and seeing what they actually had, right? Recording those and documenting what was in there. And, did the technician come in did he have brown shoes or did he have black shoes? Oh, did he have this? I mean, we were putting everything in, and everybody thought when I was showing what we were doing and all that, thought at first we were crazy. Like, you're going to give all that information? I mean, that's like handing, the evidence of everything that you're going to get criticism like crazy, because people are going to say, well, you didn't do this, you haven't done this, if you give too much. And she just said, no, we have to share it. And we did, and we put it out there, and it was, I think it was, the TV, the news got on with it. We had, besides other school districts with the Council of Great City Schools got on it, we had the newspaper. I mean, people like, what, you're our PED, the Public Education Department, we put it out there. I mean, if you want to say dirty laundry and all, to show that we have this or we don't have this and all that. And I think it blew away a lot of people, because I know it did my cohort of my other teammates across the country on the facility time. Like, you're giving all that information. And to us, it was a bonus, because it did not go bad like we thought it would. Like people says, well, it says it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was truly amazing. And what people thought, look at the dashboard. You can see anything you want. And it was like, you can see what color the paint is on your wall if you want to see. I mean, it was so much information.
Yeah. And it's there, and it's out, and it's not, there's no surprises, right? There's no skeletons in a closet anyway with you guys. And that's one of the amazing things that I try to tell people is, hey, get uncomfortable with where you are today. And if someone wants to point out something, that's great. Ask them to step up and help, or recognize it and say, you know what, that's a good point. We missed that, but look at all the things that we didn't miss. It's kind of like, I give the example on my flight, which will be on LinkedIn, is, the news focuses on the 12% of flights that are canceled or delayed every day. Well, there's 88% of flights that take off on time with no problem, but nobody talks about that. And it's, you guys are showing your great, and I think you're doing better than 88%, but you shared your greatness of all the things that you're doing, and maybe the shortcomings, but they're so minuscule and minute. There was no way that there was going to be this upheaval or this.
Well, I thought one of the things that was really probably the most amazing, and it not that we didn't trust her, we were still leery about it, but I will have to say that after we had all the information, besides everything we put out there in the dashboard, was sharing it and giving it to the teachers union, and sharing it with the teachers, all the teachers, and the teachers union was like, oh my God, this is going to be, it was unbelievable. You talk about changing trust, talk about changing attitudes. It was amazing. You never seen like the teachers or the teachers union, and they're great and they're wonderful, but to see the difference in attitude from them to say it's out there on the dashboard, go look and see what you want, changed a lot of stuff. That was a big deal.
It was a change of perception,
That's the big thing. Very positive.
Yeah,
it was very positive.
This goes back to when I started in facility management in 1996. We used to have the perception gap graph, and it was the graph was what you do and what people perceive you do, because like what Paul says, all the work you're doing behind the curtain, people don't know. And if you don't put it out there, how many work orders did you do last year?
Over 72,000.
Yeah.
72,000.
72,000. That's over 280 work orders a day that we receive and have to complete.
Yeah.
So we don't have a big backlog.
So my bigger question, pulling the curtain back a little, my question is, to feed that dashboard, did it take extra staff? Did you have to create a whole new department? What does it take to get to that point?
It wasn't easy.
When I first brought the idea to them, suddenly I had an appointment on my calendar for a meeting with everybody to, what are you talking about and how are we going to do this? And just said, I don't know. We just need to make it work. So I have to credit John and how they did it, because that was the behind the curtain of them just knowing, I don't know, she had this crazy idea. We have to figure it out.
It was a crazy idea.
But the funny thing is they had the information. There wasn't anything on there that we were asking for that I thought would be good to be transparent about that they didn't have. It was all knowledge of things that they had. It was just a matter of putting it in a format to, they didn't have to go check systems. That's why the team, I could see what they were doing behind the scenes. And I said, people need to know this. You all care about what's happening in the classroom, and you care about, the ins and outs of all of these systems. Mm-hmm. We just need to tell everybody else. And so I don't know what magic they did, mm-hmm. but I do know that it was all information that they had that we just needed to share.
And we all know that working in the public world, it's all public information.
Right.
And if they ask for it, we need to give it to them. You didn't wait for them to ask. You gave it to them.
Right.
Right. And like Josh and I always said, and even if you find that there's something wrong, own it. Mm-hmm. Say, don't try to hide it. Don't make stories around it. Yes, this is bad. This is wrong. We did this the wrong way, and this is how we're going to move forward. Own it. Own it. I
think that's a big, and people want to help us, but they need to know that things aren't perfect. We're good. We're not perfect. Yeah. And I think that it actually did help, as part of our presentation, we talked about the bond election we had upcoming during, the height of the pandemic. And it was, nobody had any money or jobs or, but I think being transparent and showing this is where we need help. I think it did help us in building trust with the community on where tax dollars were being used and what we needed money to do, because we put it all out there. And I think the community wants to help if they know what they need to help with. So if they're like, well, why does this school not have a system that can have a higher MERV filter? Mm-hmm. Well, because it's really old, and it's like, well, I want to help replace it. Mm-hmm. Like we need to know how we can help.
And I think one of the things we had to grapple with just a little bit, and again, she was saying, no, put it out there. Don't worry about it. Was, we all feel that we're pretty specialized in areas that we know. And if you don't, you may not know it. And so we always perceive that people will interpret the information wrong or whatever, or they don't really understand it. So we surely don't want to share things with them that they're going to misunderstand and all that. And that's some of the things that you do, that you worry about giving out information without them understanding. And they see it, and it's like, no, just put it out there. If they have questions, we'll answer them, but we need to give them the information. And that was that. Once we did it, it was much easier. It was you had to just bite the bullet first and do it. That was really hard at first to give out all the information. Not that we were hiding anything. We have it. You can ask for it, but just to put it out there and say, you didn't ask for it, but we're giving you dozens and dozens of pages of information. Yeah. And enjoy it.
So my big question here is that you did it during the time that, for lack of better words, money was flowing, right? We're in a pandemic. There's money coming from the feds. We're getting money for.
No, money was not flowing at the time.
Beginning.
At the beginning, no. There was a little bit of money flowing where that was out there, but nothing for us or anything. It was mostly learning loss and a little bit of
PPE.
Yeah, PPE was the big thing. That was the only money flowing.
Okay, so that answers the end of my question, which is you will be able to sustain it.
Yes.
Moving forward, because so many people have grabbed onto that money that came from the feds, and now that the money's gone, they can't sustain what they're trying to do with it.
Every single time I opened my mouth yesterday, Paul, every place that I went, I heard something that was well thought out as far as a plan went. Every school or building or stadium that I went to has got solar panels on it. And so John and I got into a discussion about solar panels, which I am a novice at understanding all of this. And so we were talking, and so John said, well, we've got this battery program that we're putting together. And I said, well, what does that mean? And he said, well, with peak demand, what we're able to do is we're able to generate solar power during the day and draw down our peak use. But what we're able to do at night now is start to store power in off-peak hours and use that battery power during the day so our peak demand doesn't go up. So we'll over time be able to save money on our utilities, which then will be able to in effect impact other things. And there was an article, and I'm drawing a blank because I've got such a brain dump of information, but the number of activities and things that have been done in this district that have either shown like significant savings to do other projects, they're figuring out sustainability of being able to do things. There was one article about saving money and being able to do something like $2 million in paint. Was it paint projects? There was something a number of years ago.
Yeah.
Trying to think of what there was this something that you actually were able to come up. You found there was $2 million or some number of millions of dollars in available funds based on other initiatives that enabled you to do all the painting that you need to do, which was significant. It was like a couple $1 million.
Yes. And I think, and that's just, the idea is a lot of times people look for lots of dollars, but we try to find little bits here and there and collectively collect those dollars and move them over. And that, though, you need to have the commitment with, and I'm lucky that I have an incredible finance manager, Billy Salas, who does her work and understands finance very well. But she's kind of like the one who can put away little dollars here and there, little bits here, put this aside, and then when she's collecting certain amounts and got it, she'll put it in other accounts, and she sends budget transfers to Dr. Blakey all the time. And, it's amazing. It's amazing. It says, okay, I'm going to transfer this much money into this account, and before you know it, we have this enough to do a lot of other projects. So it's watching your dimes and nickels a lot to be able to do project. Just because you have a budget doesn't mean you have to spend the budget. We still want to be very, very frugal. And if we can do the budget for less, and that's one of the things that happens is that when you do a lot of the stuff in-house, you're not having to spend the extra money where we're having to hire the architects, the engineers, the contractor, just to get the sub to do it and all that. We do a lot of that work, design and engineering and oversight in-house, to where you get the biggest bang for your buck.
So one of my curiosity things here is I noticed that you, in one of the articles I read, you talk about your UVC and how much ultraviolet do you have? And for those that don't know, I'm a novice at this, just like Josh is with solar, but UVC. When we went into the pandemic, there was a whole bunch of witchcraft out there. Everyone had a chemical that was going to clean, that was going to fix it. Everyone had all this magic, but when you look into the ultraviolet sanitizing, it goes back to, I think, the 40s or something like that, where they've been doing it in surgical wards for years to clean the tools. And now we're using it to put it in our HVAC and things like that to clean it out. How much of that did you install, and how are you using it?
Well, that was one of the really benefits when we started looking at this. Had numerous meetings with Dr. Blakey about it, but one thing that you have is that there was a lot of witchcraft and whatever that was going on. Oh, this do, and and that was the one thing that we were really glad about with the networking that we had with the Council of Great City Schools at the Great City Schools and our facilities networking. That was one that we met every week, and that was at the height. We're talking, what are you going to do? Talked with Fresno, talked with LA public schools, talked with Dallas public schools, Houston, New York, Chicago, Nashville, all of Boston. They all were looking at things, and so everybody had a little bit of different opinion. We all started just working closely and trying to figure out, get rid of what the hocus pocus and get rid of this stuff and really come down to it. And Chicago, and that's the one thing that, like Dr. Blake said earlier, Chicago and New York jumped in first. They saw some ideas and everything else, which were really good with air purification systems that were with UVC and some filtration. And they jumped into it. And I was just not leery about the idea, but is this the right way to do what we wanted to do? Was there other ways? Because there's other types of things that are out there. And after a while, they found out the system, the technology and all that was there, but the way of the delivery was not in portable units or whatever. Because like New York installed 3 and 4 units in every single classroom, portable units, so they could, for convenience and all that. And then they went about a month and a half later, went to see how things are going, and all of a sudden, all the units are gone. They're not, there was one unit in one classroom, another one was here, and they just you can just take. Well, I'm gonna take it home, and so I don't get sick or whatever. Whatever reason, but they were gone, and so that right away gave a big alarm because nobody talked about that kind of stuff. You didn't think about it. That gave us an alarm and a flag to say we need to look at something more permanent, which we then kept on looking and looking. We kept on time. So then we came up with a process in the technology. Then we started looking at what was out there to deliver, what was a deliverable out there. And it was really difficult because a lot of people were still looking at trying to come up with ways, but they couldn't deliver the product either. And maybe the technology wasn't that they didn't have the results, the lab results. It's just like, it's going to work. It's got this, it's got this. And so we worked with a number of different companies. The state, we worked with PED, and we came up with a set of specs that we thought were necessary. And we put out an RFP. And that was in November before Thanksgiving of the pandemic, and that would have been 2020. Yeah. So then the state, we worked with the state to show them, because we were doing a lot of the research and they hadn't, so we gave them, they wanted the procurement division of the state wanted it from our procurement division and the PED so they could share it. They looked at it, they had their engineers, and so they took our spec, altered it a little bit, and said, okay, this is a good spec. And they put it out, said, this is what you're gonna do. And they had dollars from the feds for some of this, and they were, because the money went to the state, and then the state gave it to PD. They didn't disperse it to the districts. But you could apply for it, or they allocated it by student enrollment and stuff like that. But you had to meet their spec. So when they had to meet their spec, it's like, there was a few things in the spec that weren't quite right, but we still had to meet it. But if you wanted some money from them, from the grant that was from them, you had to meet their spec. So we had to pull our spec back away, and then we put out another RFP. The state was putting out an RFP also, but we wanted there were some things like all air purification systems, and some there were some alternatives and substitutes. We wanted our spec to say you must have UVC in it, not as an alternative. And so we did ours because of the way we knew, and we put out a bid, got results, we reviewed it a lot. And so now we ended up purchasing those units, and we put UVC in every single classroom, 2 units per classroom, with air purification, with HEPA filters and pre-filters, along with UVC chambers. And we do about 4, depending on how big the classroom is or whatever, and how much you do, 4 to 5 air exchanges per hour with these units. And we have them in every single classroom. We're finishing up the project now. We still a couple more weeks before we finish, but every single classroom has them. We're having them in every cafeteria. We're putting them in offices, all the nurses' areas, and libraries that we're doing the UVC to. And it was really difficult. One of the things that's important to understand is there's a lot of people, there's other technology out there that they do, but one thing that Dr. Blakey learned and learned it really well because she had to explain it numerous times, is that Albuquerque, we have a lot of older schools, but we also have boiler systems where we have radiant heat in most of our schools. Well, radiant heat means you don't have air circulation. It's radiant heat. It comes out of the floors, comes out of the radiators. So you don't have forced air.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the whole point about COVID was to have air movement, to have ventilation. And during the wintertime, you could put a UV system anywhere out there, but you can't put it in the heating system because there's no air.
Right.
It's all radiant, it's all hot water. So you had to put in a system that had fans and had a circulation system and air chambers that you could bring the air through, run it through a UVC chamber, and then exhaust it back out into the classroom. So the technology had to be there and the proof had to be there.
So on your dashboard, does the public know what that dollar figure was for you guys to make that commitment?
Oh yeah, because that had to go to the school board and everything.
Yeah, we have another dashboard that has all of the federal funds and exactly what's been used on what. And then our dashboard also shows which schools have the UVC installed 100%, which like where they are.
That has to be a big number in your system. That has to be a very.
It was a big number. We're probably close to $18 million.
Yeah. Okay. And it's amazing that that you guys make that commitment for that, because so many of us had looked at those systems and said we just can't afford it. I know one Massachusetts community that put it in their high school, and it was $180,000 just for their high school, in the HVAC system, but they're the only one I know in the whole state of Mass.
I think that we did. I mean, part of it is, my background as a classroom teacher, thinking, well, how would I feel, like what can we do in the classroom to make it, the air quality better? And I read hundreds of articles just besides COVID, but looking at how air quality in a classroom affects student learning. And it was, at that point, you're putting the money in is worth it because you're impacting the air quality for a student, and that correlation to student learning is higher than I thought it would be. And honestly, in our schools, we didn't see, and knock on wood, school starts in a couple of weeks, with COVID, a lot of transmission in classrooms. And we have to attribute some of it to what it looks like in our air quality of our classrooms, because we never saw like a whole classroom shut down or anything like that.
And it took us a long time, I think, to realize that this was not a touch thing. It was an airborne thing. For the longest time, we were spraying, right? That was our big thing. We were misting classrooms. We were going in and putting chemicals everywhere, and finding out later that the only thing we were doing was risking the health of the people that were putting it out there, putting on the spray, and that the air is the way to go, and that's what you guys went after, and that's unbelievable.
I think one thing that was really important when you say it was that people that they gave the dollars, there's not an unlimited amount of dollars, so we're looking at going to the board twice, once for like $8 million and once for almost $9.5 million at two different times for this process to go to the board to expend this money. And this part of the issue that we saw the benefit of having someone like Dr. Blakey is that not that the board wouldn't trust us necessarily, but it had to do with the whole idea of, it was from her point of view, and also the transparency that we gave out there and showed it, and the fact that it wasn't just us as the maintenance side or the operation side. pushing for this to say for indoor air quality and all this other stuff. And one of the other reasons we wanted this system was sooner or later, COVID is just going to be another flu thing that we have. I'm just saying that. But this was more of a permanent solution that we wanted to look at for indoor air quality, because when we're not going to be worried so much about COVID, let's say after everybody, whatever it may be, vaccines or anything else, there's going to be something else. But it's also indoor air quality, the bacteria, and just what she said, the student wellness and everything else, and attendance. Kids aren't so sick because they have a much better air quality in their classroom than they ever did before. And so when she presented this, it came from her, and with the credibility that she has, it really, the board jumped on. I don't think we had a negative vote for any of it. I mean, it was unanimous every time. And even though there was other departments fighting for money, and we have technology fighting for money and teachers, it was like, no, we need to put this money. That's where the priority was. And that just showed the power of, the dashboard, because the board saw the dashboard. They saw the facts. They saw the information. Everybody saw it.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that blows me away, Paul, when you and I have talked a number of times on this is, if all you do is focus on results based on COVID, you're going to find yourself in trouble. So if you're focusing on how do we take it and handle this COVID situation, and you're not forward thinking, and I always say this, you know what? We don't know enough about COVID. Even today, there's still some mystery. There's still some confusion of understanding of how, it's the most, contagious thing, which we always sit in a room and only one person gets it and doesn't give it anybody. Doesn't make any sense. But one of the things that I say is, if someone makes a complaint and they want air quality tests done, and you don't properly look at upgrading your HVAC to not just handle COVID, but minimize respiratory issues, get rid of allergens and things that could add to asthma occurrences. There might not be any COVID, and that's great, but they could find other stuff that's a red flag, a slap in the face, or anything else like that. And I think that the way you guys positioned, I didn't see enough of it, but I think you probably positioned it well enough based on how you said it is. And what Paul said is, most of these people don't know how to afford it. I think you probably positioned it to the board and to the community of, how can we afford not to do this? And what the outcome would be beyond COVID, and improving test scores and lowering attendance. And, there were so many examples, and I did the Southern New Hampshire University president's message, which is, that talent is equally distributed, but opportunity is not. And taking that 100%, hey, we're going to have 100%. We're not going to just have the select classrooms in the showcase school. We're going to have all of our classrooms in all schools. That says something.
I think one thing about commitment, and this board and previous boards before that, we really do care about the student safety. And I think that's first and foremost. We are one of the only we were the only school district that had this, and there's a few others that have it, sort of, not to the full extent that we have, but we're one of the only school districts in the entire country that has a full-blown environmental division. We have a department that's, call it environmental hazard, now it's environmental management, where we do all indoor air quality. But I have 8 inspectors that are all EPA certified, all indoor air quality, all NIOSH, and we do small abatements with asbestos. We do lead copper tests with water. They're all certified in that. It's a full division of environmental issues. When we have an indoor air quality, the guys go out, they do full indoor air quality testing. And we get results back. We have our labs doing it, and so it's a commitment that from the operations side, that we can tell when people say, well, I'm having this. We send out our environmental people, and we're doing inspections every single day. It's not an easy, cheap thing, but I'll guarantee you that we probably have everything from asbestos to lead in the water to everything. we have our environmental hazard management books we have one for every single school, but it's not just asbestos. It's a full book, full testing of everything, and constant testing and management in place of whatever. So that you're not going to find at probably less than 1% of schools across the country. And as big a division, you're not going to find with the commitment of having that many inspectors and all that.
And you say it's a commitment by you guys there, but I know for a fact that it's got to come. You got to have support from above too. You have to have air cover. Your school board has to be with you. Your superintendents, your principals, right down. You can't do it. A lot of environmental issues in a classroom. Not a lot, but sometimes it's self-induced by the staff in that room.
Absolutely.
That's hard to go at and correct if you don't have air cover from above.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you guys I'll tell you, getting credit top to bottom from me. I've seen so much of this that just doesn't work because the money's not there, the air cover's not there, the commitment isn't there by the people, and you guys are getting it all around, man.
the factoid I got this morning, maybe it was last night. I went on 41 hours of no sleep. I slept in my clothes last night. John ran me ragged. I got my 10,000 steps in the first 2 hours. Correct me if the number's right or wrong. But in the last 10 years, they have not had a delay or a loss of school time because of a maintenance and operations issue. Does that sound right? How I said that?
That
right?
is correct.
Wow.
When
That's
we
great.
almost do, I remind him of it.
What's that?
Every time we almost get there, I remind him, what about your statistic? Like,
Yeah. Water leaks,
Yeah.
HVAC issues, blown transformers. He told me a story. It was last night. He told me a story of, one of your team members getting in a truck and driving to Texas, I think, to Amarillo, Texas, overnight to get a transformer to replace it in time for school to get started and go off. And then when we talk about, school going off, and this is what I focus and my passion is, because it's not about the classroom. I get the curriculum. I get it's important. But this is a safe space for these kids when we talk about it. This 8 hours of a lot of these kids, this is where they need to be. And if they can't get there, it's a letdown. It's a sadness. It's a lack of safety that they might have. It's a home that's vacant other than a young child. And to be able to have that number of 10 years and some of the stories that he shared, the level of effort that needed to be done, it's 24/7. I mean, it's amazing.
I think also some of the tough calls that we have, you talk about safe space. It's also grappling. It's easy to deal with, like when we have snow days. We have snow days because we have schools on the other side of the mountain, which we deal with snow days. And when you have to be careful about, calling a snow day and all that, because it's so much involved, parents having to get kids. What are you going to do about daycare? We have to think about those things, but it's also the kids that are on food that need the breakfast and the lunch, because that may be their only food. But Dr. Blakey can talk more about that because she's got to make the call. We give her the information. We have snow watch, what we call snow watch, where we go out 3:30 in the morning and drive the roads and see where the buses can go or can't go, and can kids walk. And then we relay that information to her before 5 o'clock in the morning or 4:30. Call her, get her out of bed, tell her this is what we have.
And just to put it in perspective, when he said snow days, 1,270 square miles.
1,250 square miles.
So 1,000, I was off by 20. Paul, my numbers are off, man.
You're off. That's it. I'm done.
You can tell them sleep deprived. But 1,250 square miles. The state of Rhode Island, to put that in perspective, is 1,214 square miles.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So this one school district covers the landmass of the state of Rhode Island.
Right. And anyone that's worked in the business knows that the snow call is the worst call in the world to have.
She can tell you about the problem.
You got a 50-50 shot. You're not going to make people
Pretty
happy.
much.
You know, people that count on it for daycare. There are others that don't. You know, you don't want it to be unsafe. You know, the worst thing in the world is for a bus to slip off the road, or kids to be walking down the sidewalks and get injured. So it's like that is the worst call in the world. We do it here all the time in New England, and so I know what it's like. I was part of that call at 4 a.m. with the superintendent when I worked in Watertown when I started my career, and it was always the toughest part of the career.
Yep.
So I'm gonna be honest with you. I could go for 4 more hours with you, but I have to.
I can see that.
We're gonna have him back on. Paul, I'm telling you, this was you and I have a trip in 2 weeks. I'm super excited about that. We've got New Rochelle next week. We got a lot of exciting stuff, but this was one of the most energizing, motivating, and inspirational trips that I could ever make, and I can't thank you enough. And before we go, and before we get on to the closing piece, I have to cover this because it was the one thing I had to do when I was here. No, I'm going to do 2 things. The first thing is one thing we didn't cover, and we'll have to do this in another episode because I think there's other schools in the country that are dealing with this, and maybe we'll do a use of building special. And what Albuquerque has here is it's Hollywood. It literally is Hollywood. So when we were driving around for like 6 hours, and nobody has ever mentioned Breaking Bad to me with regard to Be Awesome until about a month ago, and I've never watched it, and don't have a huge interest. Didn't think about it. And when I flew into Albuquerque yesterday, the flight attendants, the person sitting next to me there, looked at my logo and they're like, "Oh, it's like Breaking Bad." And I'm like, from what I understand, it's nothing like Breaking Bad. But so we're driving for 4 or 5 hours going around, and John says, "You know something? Something everybody always asks, and you haven't even thought about asking me, is about Breaking Bad, because the movie is in Albuquerque, and the series is in Albuquerque, and it's not about Albuquerque, but they make Albuquerque a part of the storyline. It's not that they're in Albuquerque and they're just using the space." And so I said, "No, I know it's here. I know there's parts of it. There's, we had a couple of stories." I said, and then John tells me that Netflix is here, Paramount's here, all these people are here. And we talked about how I binge watched Stranger Things for my camp with kids. And John says, "Oh yeah, which high school was it?
El Dorado.
The El Dorado High School. That's where they did all the shooting for the high school scenes, and the roller rink, and the house that it's in, and this and this." And I said, "Well, how much do these movies use your school buildings?" And it's a lot. I mean, they are used a lot, and they're having to manage the space, not just for communities, but for movies that we see on the big screen. It's sometimes say Albuquerque, but a lot of times it's just the school building itself.
Right now, shooting next door is Big Sky, the series Big Sky. That'll be all next week here at Lincoln, at my office, and the Milne Stadium next door will be Big Sky.
So we're going to have to do something on that, because as we know, use of buildings is a cumbersome, difficult, huge thing, and they literally have Hollywood next door all over the place. John drove me home last night from dinner, and there were all these streets shut down, and he says, "Oh, they must be shooting downtown Central Street." He says, "Oh, they must be shooting. They must be shooting for a movie." And I'm like, "Man, I don't see this stuff. Let's go look for people. Maybe I'll be starstruck and ask somebody for an autograph."
I am a big fan of Big Sky, so I'd be right there. I'd be trying to get around it.
Well, when you see the episode where it's the police department, it's an old brick building, 2-story, dark black. They've done one before. Now they're going to come back and do some more. That's my office building, the Lincoln, the one that we're here. That's
wow.
You're going to see.
Yep.
How about that? See that? I got the inside scoop now.
There you go.
You got the inside scoop. So we're gonna close out with this, because this is when I have the unique opportunity to get to speak to groups and organizations. Paul, as you know, it doesn't seem like it, but I do a lot of homework. I never did homework in school, but I do a lot of homework now. And where I've known John for 20 years, I thought I knew him, and I thought I knew all about his work that he does and all of his accomplishments and these transparency reports and everything else. And I said, "Man, I'm gonna do my search. I'm gonna do my stalking online and check out the digital footprint, and I'm gonna search Albuquerque Public Schools, John Dufay." In the third article, I was blown away. And so I called John and I said, John, I got to tell you something. I looked you up. I searched for you online, and I'm a little bit blown away by what I saw. And he never missed a beat. It wasn't like, oh no, what did you find? It was like, oh really? And I said, yeah. I said, you built a piece of art out of instruments that's a light in the front, in the entrance of the school administration building. You even put your own clarinet up there because your music teacher in grade school says you said, and I'm gonna put the picture's on LinkedIn with him standing underneath it. You put your clarinet up there because your music teacher told you stunk at the clarinet. But you built with 5 months with help in design. He did another piece of art too next to it that's amazing. You decided to take unusable instruments, and over the course of 5 months, in your head, not the blueprint, make this amazing piece of art that's a light fixture, light bulbs all over it. And I said, I can't imagine, telling somebody, hey, can you string some wire through a tuba, so you could put a light fixture at the end of it. But the level of detail, the amazing, they've got sheet music running up the wall to the instruments. Talk a little bit about that. Share that, because that is something that's just unique and amazing.
The sheet, it just didn't look right. And matter of fact, I shared this a lot with Dr. Blakey as we were talking about my project and stuff. And so it just didn't look right. Things weren't right. And then I kept on having these images in my head, and I'd have little dreams. And it's funny because you ask my staff, my guys that helped me, the welding shop, we were doing this, they now say that they're saying is, you're not allowed to do any more dreams. Says you can't dream anymore, because I would have this thing. I vision this and I vision this, and I'll stop. But we did come up with the idea of doing some kind of music, and I was really at a standstill with it and couldn't figure it out until talking to Gabriella and about the idea of the music and doing some notes out there. And it's like it'd be an insult to the musicians to just put notes out there that mean nothing, because it didn't mean anything. And so then it came to the idea of, then she said, well, let me do something. And then she did the note, the scale, and all that, whatever, with all the lines and everything, and sheet music. And I was like, well, how the heck am I going to do that? How am I going to come up with this idea of putting that up there? I can't put paper up there. And then worked with my metal guys and let's cut out these notes. Let's cut out the lines. Let's put this thing and start cut, and then have it floating. But it couldn't be regular music. So then she went back to her and said, I need something to be real. And she came up with music.
So I just didn't want it to be random musical notes. So we put Fanfare for the Common Man, which is also known as the Superman theme for people. And when they did the unveiling, because we're a school district, so we're all about the kids. So we had the kids from one of the high schools come when we unveiled it, and they played the music that's on the sheet music that's on the sculpture with the brass instruments, and they played the Fanfare for the Common Man.
How many brass instruments are up there?
People ask me that question. I can't remember how many. I think we had 18.
Yeah, I was going to say it was close to 20. As I was trying to keep up. And then there's the top piece by your clarinet.
That's right. There's the tuba.
Yeah.
And then what's the next size from the tuba? The bell. Well, there's the bell from the tuba, and then the trombone. Yeah. Or whatever, and then the clarinet comes down and has all the electrical in it, and then goes through the distribution of everything. Yeah.
So Paul, there's a weld, and I'll take a picture. There's these welded musical notes that start on the wall, run up the wall, go into the ceiling, and go around the fixture that you didn't see in the picture. But that's the Superman song, and wow. I mean, you talk about covering every detail. Just amazing, just absolutely amazing.
So just for the record, I had the same experience. I played the clarinet. My music teacher told me,
Oh no.
go do something else. I bought a pair of ice skates and I started playing hockey. I just walked away from it totally.
No, you have to understand this, okay? I thought I was, and I have a picture of it, when I was a kid, I thought I was the next Benny Goodman. I played clarinet 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and I was going into the 9th grade, and I was in there, and my teacher says to me, we were registering, you had the card, you got to put your elective, and my teacher comes to me and asks me, what am I going to pick for an elective? And it was like, well, that's a crazy question. Of course, because I get to go to concert band. I'm going to be in 9th grade. And she says, I think you'd be really good at art. and I thought she was joking, and she was for real. And I was like, are you kidding? And so I ended up taking art, and I then went to architecture school. So
I used to carry my little clarinet case to family parties. My mother would make me take it, and every time I walk in with it, the family would just shake their head. They would go, oh no, you're gonna have to listen to Hot Cross Buns again.
I thought I was good.
It's I was a little bit different. John actually got the ability that somebody suggested something else. I used to just be told, just go do anything else other than this, and they'll probably tell you the same thing. Yeah. And so, Paul, I end every episode with, I think we got it all covered, but I don't think we even scratched the surface on this one.
No, not here.
But flights and time and everything else, I think we need to do a to be continued, and hope that they'll come back again sometime down the road and share all the awesome that they're doing.
Absolutely.
So,
do you have a shout out for us this week?
I do. I've got a shout out. I always got a shout out. This is a cool one. And I would tell you, if you're on LinkedIn, connect with this guy, because he is doing a lot of what Bill Cooper does, which he's talking about his team and the amazing things that they're doing and the projects. His name is Brian Russell. We're going to talk about his team, but it's Brian Russell. He's supervisor of operations and transportation in Bensalem Township. And we're in summer break, which, summer break, not a lot of kids, not a lot of stuff, things don't get thought of, in reminding ourselves of what our kids need and how they need it, and the actions that we need to take to support them even when they're not in the classroom. So he put this post up, and it's titled a great program for our drivers to participate, kids eat free. And there's a combination of the whole team. It's big on the bus drivers, but here it is. Daily, our dedicated BTSD drivers take our 2 designated lunch buses to pick up prepared food made by our cafeteria employees. Then the buses are driven to several locations throughout the district. Kids at these locations can board an air-conditioned bus for a relaxing free lunch. That's all summer, every day, prepared by food services and transportation. I'm sure the custodian operations is all around, and we're going to talk about all the different facets of operations, as you heard here. But if you could see these buses, which I'm sure their facility team helped with, they retrofitted these 2 school buses. So they actually have tables and benches inside with refrigerators, and they're full serve food prepared for those in need that would otherwise go hungry. So Brian Russell, you and your team, unbelievable job on top of all your summer projects to make sure that no kid goes hungry while the summer goes on, and hats off to you. So thank you very much.
Right.
So this is going to do it. Thank you so much. I'm going to tell you right now, whether you want me back or not, I'm coming back. This has just been a great experience, and thank you for giving some additional time for this podcast. I've got about an hour and 20 minutes before my flight takes off. We're going to see how many places John can stop at and show me between here and the 3.5 miles. I've already seen how far it takes to get to the airport. It's 3.5 miles. It's going to take about 16 minutes with traffic, and I can tell you right now, I'm going to be probably running to the gate, trying to catch my flight, looking at things. This has been awesome. Thank you. You gave me such a shot in the arm. It's been phenomenal. To those that are watching, listening, following, liking, sharing, please keep it up. We're doing phenomenal work. We're going to get to the top 5% of all podcasts, which there's going to be 4 million podcast channels by September. We're in the top 10%, moving to the top 5%. I want to be in the top 2.5%, which means that we're reaching people, we're talking to people, we're learning from people, and we're sharing, and that's important, and that's why we're doing this. because we want to show all the awesome that our folks are doing in schools, making a difference and making a positive impact. So please like, share, comment. 5-star rating is fantastic. If it's not a 5-star, get a hold of us. We'll get a hold of Paul at beawesome.com. He's our complaint department. I'm the compliment department, Josh at beawesome.com. So
I want to renegotiate my contract.
yes, 5-star ratings and reviews. Paul and I are hitting the road in a couple of weeks. We're going to be going to the great state of New York and New Jersey for a couple of days, and we're going to have Keith Watkins from New Rochelle, New York. When we're talking about New York, New Rochelle was the epicenter of COVID when it happened, and they did a lot of amazing things, and they're doing a lot of amazing things with the kids and getting them into the skilled labor force out of high school. So we're going to do all that stuff next week. I'm going to hit the road, and if it can be anything, be awesome. Have an awesome day.
Bye, everyone.